Guys, the non-farm payrolls came out better than expected on Friday, but if you actually look into the details of these numbers, you will see a lot of disturbing things that the media chooses to ignore. So let's look at what is really going on in the labor market and what it means for the economy and interest rates. Now, the unemployment rate ticked up from 3.9 to 4%. Now, the 4% unemployment rate typically meant full employment. That's because when you have people that are in between jobs, meaning they quit one job or they got laid off and they're looking for another job or they moved to another city, that is about a 4% unemployment rate, that friction between jobs. But that could have changed more recently because of the gig economy. Some people have 2 or 3 jobs and those jobs all get counted as jobs, or they are working part-time even though they would like to work full-time, and those part-time jobs get counted as jobs as well. But if you look back in history, a 4% unemployment rate is very rare. And you'll see it usually happens right before a big recession. Now, the last time I remember that this happened was during the internet bubble, right before the stock market crashed. I remember looking up at the screen at CNBC when the report came out, and the market immediately started selling off when the unemployment rate went below 4% to 3.9%. And this was the first time it happened in, I think, like 40 years or something along those lines. So here's a chart of the unemployment rate and the Fed funds effective rate. And these gray bar areas are recessions. So you see low rates under 4% right before a recession here, 3.5% 1969. And here when we went from 4.1% in August 2000 to 3.9% in September 2000, right before the internet bubble and this recession. And the unemployment rate hit about 4.4% in May of 2007 before the great financial crisis. And now we are back here under 4%. Now, this is a chart of the QQQ, the NASDAQ 100 in September 2000, when the first time the unemployment rate came out under 4%. And you see it went from 103 to 1 year later in September to 26, a drop of about 70% in 1 year. And the S&P 500 is similar. Here's the SPY. It traded as high as about 153 in September of 2000. A year later, it traded as low as 93, a drop of about 40% in 1 year. So with historically low unemployment rates, there really is no reason for the Fed to need to lower interest rates. In fact, they probably need to raise interest rates. Unless, of course, those numbers are kind of fake and they're masking the real problem underneath, then yes, they may have to get to a course of lowering interest rates if we are heading into a recession. So let's go take a look at these numbers and see what is real and what is kind of fake. So this is the Zero Hedge article inside the most ridiculous jobs report in years. So this blockbuster jobs report was one which nobody expected, not even JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, whose estimates were like 165 and 150,000. And only one bank, Regions Bank, was even close to the actual number. So these are all the estimates from the so-called experts in the banks. And this is the actual number all the way out here on the right. So average hourly earnings, both month over month and year over year, both ticked up. But the problem is there is a big difference between the establishment survey and the household survey. The establishment survey jobs were up 272,000, while the household survey was down 408,000 jobs. And looking at a chart of the difference between the two, the establishment being in green, household in blue, they generally track each other, except here in December, there was a big discrepancy. And now here, we just got another big discrepancy, a difference of almost a 700,000 job difference. How is this possible? Well, Bloomberg's chief economist says that the household survey is far more accurate. So she says the May jobs report is contradictory. but that was expected, and the establishment survey shows robust gains in non-farm payrolls, yet the unemployment rate rose to 4%. So she says, we believe the household survey is a closer approximation of reality than payrolls, as the BLS model for estimating business births and deaths, which added 231,000 jobs to the non-farm payrolls print in May, is lagging the reality of surging establishment closures and falling business formation. We think the underlying pace of current job gains is likely less than 100,000 per month. So the establishment survey surveys about 120,000 businesses, but also uses basically just statistics to say how many new businesses were created or died and how many people would that have employed. And so a lot of that number is could be faked. Whereas the household survey is them actually calling up about 60,000 people and asking them, do they have a job? Are they looking for a job? Is it part-time? All those kinds of questions. So that is a lot more accurate. And so looking at this chart of the difference between the establishment survey in green and the household survey in red, going back to 2020, you see it generally tracks pretty well, but that started skewing away from each other. And now the difference between the two surveys is 9 million jobs. And so Bloomberg admits they're artificially inflating the monthly jobs print by about 100,000 jobs. So with this statistical manipulation, the birth-death model has added 1.9 million jobs since last April, or a whopping 56% of all payrolls added during this period. That means that more than half of all job gains in the past year are from an Excel spreadsheet, which assumes that 1.9 million new jobs were created from new businesses. So this chart in red shows monthly payrolls, and the blue shows the birth-death adjustment cumulative change. And so this whole distance here, half of it is from these birth-death adjustments, meaning that this number is probably closer to somewhere around here. And the BLS reported in May 2024 that they had 133 million full-time jobs and 28 million part-time jobs. But a year ago in May 2023, they had 134 full-time jobs, meaning we lost about 1 million full-time jobs, but part-time jobs have increased by about 1.5 million since May 2023. So here's a simple chart of the job changes since May 2023. Full-time down 1.1 million, part-time up 1.5 million jobs. So the job changes for May 2024 is an increase of 286,000 part-time jobs, but a loss of 625,000 full-time jobs. Not good. But wait, it gets worse, because the May number of native-born workers tumbled again, sliding by 663,000 to just 130 million, while foreign-born workers, mostly illegal aliens, as Standard Chartered calculated earlier this week, surged by 414,000. So in red, this is native-born workers, and green, this is foreign-born workers. So you see, since 2018, the red has not grown, but the green has grown a whole lot. So they say not only has job creation in the past 4 years been exclusively for foreign-born workers, but there has been negative job creation for native-born workers since December 2019. So since December 2019, foreign-born workers gained 3.5 million jobs, while native-born workers lost 836,000. And since just April 2023, foreign-born workers gained 934,000, native-born workers lost 668,000. I wonder if this chart could have anything to do with that. Illegal crossings of Southwest land border monthly. Now, we do have some legal migration, and some of those jobs are going legally to foreign-born workers, but the majority are going to illegals. Now, how is that possible, since most people think illegals can't work legally? Well, here it says, because you can be an illegal immigrant in deportation proceedings, not to mention anyone seeking asylum, and get authorization to work in the U.S. for up to 5 years, no questions asked. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services increased the maximum validity period to 5 years for initial and renewal employment authorization documents issued to the following categories of non-citizens: refugees, non-citizens paroled as refugees, asylees, recipients of withholding of removal, applicants for asylum or withholding of removal, applicants for adjustment of status, and applicants for suspension of deportation or cancellation of removal. So basically, anybody that steps foot here can get legal working papers. So there you have it. The economy is great. Unemployment is really low. Nothing to see here. If you're American born, yes, you're going to be losing full-time jobs, but the good news is you're going to be losing it to a bunch of illegals that are also getting government benefits on top of that so they can work cheaper and help out the big corporations and keep inflation down by working for less wages. But don't worry, folks, because Biden mumbled something the other day about doing something about the illegal immigrants crossing the border, at least until the election. So guys, this is another example of how they can manipulate the statistics to make things seem rosier than they really are, as they try to gaslight you that everything is great. But all you have to do is look at your grocery bill or your gas bill or your insurance bill or anything else to see that they are lying to your face.